Welcome to Pissweek Airlines. Just doing the final checks before takeoff. Flight 710 to Hobart, Tasmania. Blue Cross, check. Coffee in a travel mug, check. Seatbelt on. And then we need the fan on. Pleasant 16 degrees Celsius, heading for a top of 21 degrees Celsius today. Very nice autumn day coming up. Work. And then a wee party to go to. So I'm having a busy Friday. Here we go. Ready for takeoff, and we're off. Hope you brought your own snacks, beverages, and seatbelts because we don't provide them at Pissweek Airlines. Hey, Cement Shoes. Hey, Scout. Oh, I'm just driving away from beautiful Sunny Bum. She gave me the look of, you're leaving me for the whole day, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. Oh, office bag, check. Nothing worse than a 40-minute drive to town only to discover you've left your work laptop at home. That's always fun. Mind you, we can log into our profiles on other computers, but it's not quite the same as having your own, especially when you've got all your stuff on the desktop and, good to see you, Grooves. Little vent, little ramp coming up. There's a couch on the side of the road, not a recliner, a couch. Possibly part of a set originally with a couple of recliners. It is hard rubbish. Well, I shouldn't think it's coming up that soon, but clearly they wanted that couch out of there. It's usually once every 6 weeks, so I've heard comments under videos before saying, why do you Australians have all your litter out on the road? Well, it's a thing called hard rubbish, which is essentially things that are too big to put in your bin, too big and heavy, and sometimes ones that need specific treatment or dispose of, like, paint and batteries and things like that. I don't think that stain is a mystery, Cement Shoes. I think she was very upfront about how that stain got there, and that was information I could have survived my entire life without knowing. Maybe you need to turn something up, Scout, although if you don't have any sound, you won't hear me telling you to do that. Cement Shoes, you need to direct Scout. Say to her, check your device. Oh, she's refreshing. She is very refreshing. She's a very refreshing human being. Oh, Friday. Can't stand people saying Friday. If there's anyone in chat who likes Friday, explain to me why it's good or fun. I don't know. I love the English language and I love inventing my own words. But things like Friday, no. You're good now. Yeah, say it was you. It's you, not me. Yeah, I know. And I think we all would have happily gone to our graves without knowing about NC and her gravy train. Great. Yeah. No, I just keep thinking of a poop stain on a recliner. Stop it. Stop it. It's the early morning here. It's too early to feel nauseous. I've got so involved in researching stories for my channel. Like, you guys are going to be blown away. I think if I do one show a week on this topic, I've already got over a year's worth of topics. Mind you, I still have to write everything. But what I'm thinking of doing is writing it and then producing a video and then going live, playing the video, because that'll give everyone the story. And the videos aren't going to be very long. Like there'll be 10 minutes, roughly, depending on how much information I want or I need to include. But and then we'll have like an open discussion and even a live panel. It's a lovely Ruth in here. Yay, hello. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time just in terms of focusing on restructuring and how I want the channel to go. And one of the first things I've got to do is I really want to set up one of my spare rooms to be like a permanent recording space. I'm getting really tired of having all my gear set up in my living room on my dining room table. So there's a microwave and a TV on the side of the road. Because I've tried to minimalize, in my house. I mean, I'm not going to be one of those minimalists with a barren house. I've got things that aren't really of any functional use, but they bring me joy, and so they're still in my home. But to me, it's weird. It's just feels so cluttered having all my equipment just sitting at one end of the dining room table. I mean, the dining room table is 7 foot, like it's not a little one. But I've sort of got these beautiful bits of art and hanging pots and yummy things, and then there's sort of the whole cords and extension cords and the rig for my camera and then the laptop, and I don't know, it needs its own space. Kim Heffernan, hello beautiful. Ruth, you're always multitasking with my lives. You're beating and watching me, and you're clever. Look, I like it too, cement shoes. I'm sure it's lovely to see that, but it's annoying me that, I have people around a lot and we're always sort of sharing the table with mountains of electronic equipment, or I've got to pack it all up, put it away, and then the next time I go live, I've got to set the whole thing up again. I'd rather just have a permanent spot. And it's just to do with consistent branding and just make it look a little, because I've got a pretty serious plan with this channel and what I want to do with it. So I want to nail it from the start. It's kind of my last attempt at getting noticed on YouTube, I guess. Because if you don't grow, what's the point? And I'm not talking about growing to the point of getting monetized and making a living off being on YouTube, but I'm talking about at least growth in having new subs rolling in who want to join in chat and participate and, build our community. And any job that you do, if you put in hard work, you want to see results, is what I'm saying. And there'll still be lives with the living room happening, for sure. But I've got 2 spare bedrooms, and I really only use one, and the other one's kind of a study / storeroom / snug at the moment. Well, it's not. It's a storeroom that's storing all the things I've sorted that I don't want. I've got to get rid of that all and clear all of that out. And if the bathroom has to be renovated, while there's builders doing that stuff, I might as well get in and get rid of all of the things that I've kept, because they're really good for, we've got a pay it forward kind of group, and it's a no buy, no sell, so people just donate things, and it's a really lovely community initiative, especially for people moving into the area, single mums, single dads, older people, recently divorced people, like anyone that's sort of struggling financially. Like, we all go in and set up these little homes for them and make them all homely with stuff in the kitchen, stuff in the fridge, make all the beds with fresh linen, just And I've got lots of things to donate to that because it's such a rewarding thing to do. Batshit alert. I think you just have to set an alarm, Cement. Um, I do want to have a tiny rant, which I will while I'm driving. And school's back too, so we're going to see, I think, a difference in how long it takes to get to work and how much traffic there is. It's the most hideous time of the year. It's back to school week. Ugh. No, and the batshit times change because of Finn and his work schedule. I personally would like consistency, like the same time and day every week. But Finn does day shifts and night shifts, and then sometimes he's actually, because he's a FIFO worker, and then other times he's back here in Tassie. He didn't live in Tassie when I met him. So bizarre. People are like, oh, you guys have known each other forever. No, we met online because I was talking about a topic he was interested in. And he was living in Queensland. Some of you might remember him doing a batshit episode from a friend's balcony because his place was flooded. Without going into his private life, but he's ended up living in Tassie, but the other end of the island, and he's away a lot. So we haven't actually met in person yet, but we will. We're going to surprise you guys one day and do a batshit sitting side by side. That'll be fun, eh? You remember the balcony? Yeah. Yeah, so no, we haven't known each other forever. He just discovered this amazing little island and moved here. Smart boy. Yeah, it's pretty awesome to look this morning, the sky, isn't it? Oh, autumn is amazing. I've got ideas for my other channel too, Tasmania Calling. I really just want to do a Tassie vlog. I've come up with a name I think is pretty funny. You guys are like, oh God, Tori, you're changing your name. And yeah, I am. You bet I am. I'm streamlining. Your favourite causeway is not far off, Scout. Finn would be a fun guy to have. Finn is hilarious. Oh my God, he was so hyper the other night. I couldn't believe it. Like how hyper he was. We'd nearly done 8 stories in 30 minutes. Like, as you guys know who watch Batshit, the show goes for an hour. 8 stories, 1 hour, done. I mean, I either get Finn off a long shift and he's so tired, he's yawning and rolling his eyes and nodding off. Or I get like mega hyper. He was so pumped. I can't miss what she just saw. Tori's new brand. Ken, you've seen many of them, haven't you? Actually, that's a good segue into what I need to offload before I get to work. Oh, guys, too. Another thing. Kind of scary, but Law Week is coming up. And I'm going to be putting all my information out on YouTube because I came up with an idea for work. Like during Law Week, we're doing lots of different awareness things about our service. And, you know, another law-related like courts and tribunals and law firms. Like everyone gets involved, the Law Society, everyone gets involved and has all these sort of awareness things going on, and everyone's always looking for a quirky angle that makes them stand out. Well, I came up with the brilliant idea to do a YouTube live stream, like a sort of a Q&A, but also just a bit of an infomercial, I guess, on what we do. And one of the things that I pitched to the principal at work was I could rent a crowd and promote this event. It's coming up in May, the week of the 15th, around that time. Is the 15th a Monday? I know it's hard, Kim Heffernan, because if I comment on stuff now involving the topic of this live, you know, the rewriting of history of what's happened and why it's bullshit, half the older OG crew, remind me to tell you about some guy who hates OG. I was listening to a live the other day and he got so bloody snowflakey, it was hilarious. Now I've completely lost my train of... Oh, yeah, so a lot of the OG crowd didn't keep up with all my name changes. They're kind of like, well, who the hell are you? And I'm like, well, I used to be, and then I try to remember all of my channel names and hope that one of them sticks. But my very first channel was my actual name. Oh, well, you don't need to... Yeah, I say, okay, Scout, but what I was going to suggest was I'm hoping that some of you... It's going to be like Australian lunchtime when I'm doing it, but I'm hoping that some of you will be around and you can pop in and just sort of do a bit of role play and pretend to be interested in what I do and the service we provide, and even pretend to be local if you want. Because I said to my principal, look, I can bring in a renter crowd, and everything we do, I mean, we're a funded not-for-profit, so anything that we do that can work or generate interest in what we do is really positive for us when we put in our grant applications for more funding. So, yeah, you guys might get to pretend to be Tasmanians with workers' compensation claims. But I'm going to be fully putting out there where I work, my full name, all of it. And I'm okay with that. Your favourite is Smooth Criminal Podcast. Okay, well, the podcast is always going to have that name because that was the name of my podcast. I've had a lot of feedback about that channel, this channel. This causeway has been particularly gorgeous this morning. It's very hard to find my channel because most people just remember Smooth Criminal. They don't remember podcast, and there are millions of videos of Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal, not just his, but other people that have done remixes and lyrics and acoustic versions, you name it. Maybe not millions, but there would be easily thousands. Like, it's unbelievable when you type in Smooth Criminal in the YouTube search bar what you get. And yeah, most people forget the podcast bits. So I really like the intro too. The problem is it doesn't reflect where I'm taking the channel adequately. But most people see me in chat and think that I'm just, I'm using the name Smooth Criminal because it's a crime related name, I guess. So I'm still going to upload podcast episodes, and for the moment, it's still has its name, but expect changes. I'm sorry. I mean, we could do once I've uploaded all the episodes of my podcast. I am planning on doing live episodes, so we'll play a variation of the Smooth Criminal intro. Like I'll change the wording because it's going to be more about the podcast. But I've actually had a significant number of people comment on how they've had a lot of difficulty finding me. Your favourite one was Better Call Saul. Well, that one got criticised too because there's a heap of. I mean, I thought it was funny and it could play on words, but I've actually heard creators going, "Well, I'm expecting some trolls to come in with dumb names like Better Call Saul." Everyone's got an opinion on YouTube, and most of them are negative. What a miserable bunch of people, honestly. The Better Call Saul was crime related, and I have moved everything crime related, or I'm moving everything over to Smooth Criminal. But then on top of that, whenever I move something over, I get this new audience of people that are commenting, and I'm kind of like, well, this is actually a live from a different channel that I did 2 years ago. I'm sort of not really putting it up to have another debate about it. I'm putting it up as an archive of my work. Change is good. Well, you guys know how I feel about how social media is impacting trials. We've talked about it a lot, and not just the loonies on YouTube, but out in the real world too. I mean, my first Stop the Madness video shows victims of many crimes begging people to watch what they do and say on social media. Smooth Criminal Podcast as a name doesn't reflect that at all. I've been in YouTube school. I've been watching tutorials and looking at other channels and reading articles and learning how to use this platform effectively. And everything I'm doing at the moment is not following one of the number one rules, which is be consistent. Stick to the topic sort of thing. So the podcast is kind of a little fun thing on the side. If I was a big enough channel and looked into things like, members only stuff, then maybe that's where all the podcast episodes would go. But it's a public podcast. Like why would I say, oh, you've got to become a member to see this when you can listen to it on podcasting platforms already, like. So I kind of need like a consistent brand, a consistent spot, and just really get into this subject that I'm so interested in. And I really think you guys will find it interesting because it's this sort of evolving area of law that's trying to keep up with all of the chaos that we're seeing unravel on YouTube and other social media platforms. So it's very organic and will be part of the movement. I agree with you, Kim, so much that, yeah, not televising limits the loonies. And the thing is, when you listen to channels, US channels, talking about the importance of proceedings being streamed and broadcast, their justification for it is we're taxpayers, we pay for the judicial officers' incomes, and we're entitled to see what's going on to make sure that they're doing their job properly. But again, it's like, well, yes, your taxes do pay the salary, but you're not the regulator of them. There are other people that are seeing that they are doing their job properly, and there's a process that ensures they do their job properly, and it's called the appeals process. Members of the public generally are not that great at critiquing what goes on in court because they're not fully aware of all of the prerequisites for a conviction to stick. And you know, a judge might have a personality that they don't like, and suddenly that judge is the worst judge ever, even though their judgment is sound, they're rarely appealed, and they're fucking good at what they do. You know, all the lawyers get critiqued for being boring. Well, I hate to break it to you, but it is boring. You do have to be very meticulous in court and go through every single piece of evidence in intricate detail. There are days in court where everyone falls asleep. Like, it's not a Las Vegas bloody showgirl performance. It's a court of law where somebody's liberty's at stake. And where somebody else's justice is at stake. But we don't televise proceedings. Canada doesn't. The UK doesn't. And guess what? Taxpayers aren't up in arms about not being able to look in and check that the judges are doing the right thing. We trust that they are, and we also trust if they're not, they're going to get struck off. They're going to get appealed against. Like, the process itself is going to kick in. The people that actually are responsible for making sure they're doing their jobs are going to know about it. And we trust that that's going to happen. Televising court proceedings isn't going to change a fucking thing. Because if I watched court proceedings and went, oh, that judge is a bit shifty, and rang up and complained, they'd be like, well, you're actually wrong because you're not understanding the point of law he's talking about or she's discussing right now. We're watching. We're regulating this shit. Like, your opinion is unfounded. Have a nice day, madam. Exactly. We get all the discovery well, not all of it, but yeah, we look up documents, and sometimes they televise things of importance, like the judgment, the verdict and judgment in the Chris Dawson trial was televised. Like, we do get to see some things. But it's a weird reason to justify televised proceedings because the way the court systems are set up and the way the justice process works, if judges fuck up, there's appeals available. How is being able to tune in as a member of the public going to make any difference at all? Because you've got no power in terms of anything. It's our right to tune in and make sure they're doing a good job. Okay, well, does that apply to every single person who's publicly funded? You know, is it our right to tune into the prisons and check that the corrections officers are doing their job because they're paid for by taxpayers? Are we allowed to beam into the Australian Taxation Office? Like, it doesn't make sense. Come up with a better reason for why they should be televised. I'm not anti it. Like if your country chooses to do it, that's great. But come up with a better reason why it's so important. And that's the thing. The justification for it is it's a very important process, very important part of the process. Why? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it that you guys televise because we all get to watch it. Because we don't get to watch much here. Our privacy laws are so strict. Totally, Kim. It's 100% voyeurism. And that's the other thing too, Ruth. I agree. Like we actually get reports from qualified journalists who understand the court system, who are able to tweet out and write articles and do news stories and report on what happened in court. We're not getting treated to the likes of Bullhorn Betty's assessment of what happened in court. We're actually getting qualified information. Because, I mean, there are people that watch Bullhorn Betty and listen to her account and think she's getting it right. And we all know that's not quite the case. Kind of annoying me now, though, all of the channels. I mean, I know I've taken the piss out of it too, but I don't know. I'm finding it kind of annoys me that, and that's sort of what I was going to talk about too, the history of the whole drama and true crime community and how the history is just getting ignored by this new generation. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of scandalous stuff for them to talk about, but are you noticing that the channels that are, and I'm not saying all of them, but a few of them are, who are critiquing the likes of Bullhorn Betty, it's very rare that they actually acknowledge anything that she gets right. And I mean, I'm not just talking about Bullhorn, I'm talking about everyone. Like, there's this sort of across the board, somebody does something horrible and fucked up, then they're just a horrible, fucked up person. There's never any acknowledgement for the good that people do or the things that they get correct. And, you know, even now with her being ripped to shreds, and she provides so much material, but I've noticed some creators even stopping her mid-sentence and ripping what she's saying to shreds. And it's like, I'm surprised so many people are rolling in to listen to these channels now, because it's kind of like their egos have ballooned because they've built that channel, or their channel's grown significantly by doing this. But they're at a point now where it's exhausting because you just want to hear them say something positive. And then the other element of it too is a lot of them are now, I find, patronising in the way that they explain how the court process works to their subscribers. The subscribers are already into true crime. They're adults with brains. We don't need you clapping out the syllables and teaching us about law and courts of law and what's going on, especially when you're getting it wrong. But can you give the splaining a break? It's fine. It's kind of, yeah, I'm surprised that subscribers are tolerating being talked to like that. You know, pare back a bit. Go back to when you were funny and everyone could have a good laugh. But I don't need some wanker explaining the law to me like I'm a 2-year-old. Welcome aboard, Joman. I see you parachuted in through the sunroof. Nice work. Joey Wilson. Have a good day at work, Gorge. I'm all disoriented because I worked on Monday Tuesday was Anzac Day. But I worked from home on Monday, which I rarely do. Although I'm working from home next Monday because I've got the building inspectors finally coming to assess the damage under my house and let me know the scope of works required to rectify my home to its pre-flooded state. And then you're having Tuesday off, which I normally work. And then I don't normally work on Fridays from the office. I normally work from home. So to me, it feels like it's a Monday. It feels like Monday morning to me. Because the last time I was at the office was last week. So, yeah, I'm kind of all disoriented. Discombobulated. Traffic wasn't too bad, actually. I mean, I think it was a bit busier than it's been, but it wasn't, we weren't bumper to bumper on the highway. G'day, cuz. How are you, Kylie? So my rant when we get to the car park is just going to be about the new folk who are... It's Monday. Stop it. I'm telling myself to say, have a lovely weekend to everyone that I speak to, so I keep reminding myself it's Friday. Plus, we've got a Friday night function after work too, which will be a bit of fun. That's really why I've come in, because we've got a party. Well, it's not really. It's the Australian Law Association. I don't think it's going to be, anything too racy, but it'll be nice to have a knockoff drink and some nibbles. So very Aussie. We're serving drinks and nibbles at 5:30 p.m. Come and join us for a laugh. Party on, groovers. Mind you, lawyers do know how to party. It's a way of, dealing with all the stress and pressure. Big drinkers. One of my exes, who was a complete fuckwit, I must admit, at the end of our relationship anyway, and I swore I'd never date a lawyer, but when I met him, he was no longer practicing law. He'd given up law, and he had an amazing legal career, but he retired from law to buy a pub, and he was actually interviewed about his career change. And when they asked him, what made you decide to go from law to owning a pub? And he said, I wanted a career less focused on alcohol. See, I just acknowledged that my ex-dickhead did something good. My little park is there. Yay. Public lawyer, indeed. My lawyer friends are a hoot to hang out with, and yes, they can. Yeah, they can. Becoming a lawyer should come with a warning. This career might be rewarding, challenging, interesting, but protect your livers, people. The dancing knee is not shag ready yet. No, Kylie. I was able to go for my first beach walk, though, the other night. I didn't walk very far. I went live and were you there? I can't remember, but I went live and stood on a sandbar basically, and watched the sunset. But it was nice to be on the sand. I'm still not allowed to barefoot on the sand though, which sucks. But baby steps. Baby steps. I've got my sunnies for later. What else do I need to put my makeup on? I'll get that later. And I need my office key. There we go. Got that too. And my cardigan, which I'll be putting on because it's a bit brisk in town. It's only 13 here. It was 16 when I left home. No, I'm not going to need knee surgery. I need to do my knee exercises. I'm only 1 month in, and the prognosis was 4 months to get it back to sort of pre-injury status. It's been good though. I've been doing my exercises and it shows. Like my recovery, my physio is pretty impressed. The really crappy part about it though is that it's the constant pain, and never underestimate pain, constant pain, because it's not like it was when it happened. When it happened, it absolutely caned, but just having niggling pain all the time, it's exhausting. And I'm not taking meds for the pain now. I'm just putting up with it because I'm tough. And I don't like taking medicines if I don't need to. A couple of weeks, you'll be ready to jump back in the saddle. Stop it, Kaylee. There are ways you can adapt. How long have you been on the recovery? Yeah, about a month since it happened. So 3 more months of physio minimum. But my physio is very pleased. I'm just going to whack on some foundation so the glasses are off. Yeah, she's very pleased with my progress, and she's completely switched up my exercises, and they're pretty full on now. Like, it was so funny at the start. My knee was really bad, and there wasn't much I could do with it. But I must admit, I was doing the exercises going, yeah, these are exercises for a special needs person. They were so simple, but they worked. But now, after I saw my physio Wednesday, and she's totally ramped up the exercises. So yeah, that I actually feel like I've done a workout now at the end of my exercise session, whereas before I couldn't really see much benefit, but it was just a very gentle rebuilding of my muscles and the meniscus and all that sort of stuff. The real problem is actually the hamstring, because it's painful to have it fully extended or fully bent. So like sitting in my car right now is really comfortable because the end of the seat supports my knee, but it's not like fully extended. But because that's my comfortable spot, the hamstring hasn't been getting a lot of full stretching. So a lot of my exercises now are about the hamstring. And I'm doing them I do the exercises on both sides because I'm kind of like, well, I'm not able to do anything at the gym at the moment, so I'm going to strengthen my other leg as well. But you can tell the difference between the two when I'm doing the exercises. Like I know my right knee is rooted at the moment. It's very different to the left knee. But I said to someone the other day, I can't remember who it was, we were just chatting about something, and then she brought up a health issue, and I responded about my knee, and I was like, how are we at the age where we talk about ailments? I wasn't ready to be here yet, but the highlight of our conversation is talking about the bits of our bodies that are falling apart. It's ridiculous. I'm just putting on my powder and then I can read chat again. But I was just going to say, with the new crowd of people that are being pretty scathing of creators that, you know, we've all been watching for years, like, we've seen horrible stuff. There's no doubt about it. We've seen hideous stuff. But there's plenty of hideous stuff for us all to get fired up and talk about. But I also feel like we've been a bit more diplomatic in the past, in that, you know, YouTube is a very forgiving place when people do horrible things. Sometimes I think too forgiving, but then I'm also really grateful that it can be quite forgiving, because sometimes I think people deserve forgiveness and they're allowed to move on. But the other thing was, I felt in the past that people still acknowledged the good things that creators did as well. And, or, you know, they'd do a live or something and it'd be a really good one and the chat would be really positive and saying, you know, this is where you need to focus, and all that other stuff wasn't really becoming for you, and, you know, this is a much better direction for your channel to be going. Like, people were positive and supportive, or they just, you know, stopped watching people. But the problem is that there's this new crowd, and look, I'm not saying they're not allowed to talk about stuff on YouTube. Of course they are, and they can definitely comment on things that they're witnessing. But if you're going to be dragging up stuff that happened 4 or 5 years ago on here, educate yourselves on what actually happened at the time, because I'm hearing a lot of very firm opinions about things, and it's been, the version of what happened is being misrepresented in the way it's being retold. B, they've got a huge audience listening who believe that this version is the accurate one. C, they're forming incredibly strong opinions without being fully informed, which really shits me. And they're wrong. And if someone sort of says in the chat, look, we were actually around at the time and that's not quite what happened, they get really pissed off. And I heard one guy losing his shit because somebody had tried to give him a bit of the OG history. And he's like, oh, well, I hate OG. It's a stupid term. It means we're not allowed to comment. And I think the person in the chat was saying, of course you're allowed to comment, but you've got a very strong opinion and it's not based on fact. Like, do you want to actually have a discussion and hear what happened at the time? Like, if you're going to slam people, they were talking about when Makeup Mobster got swatted, and a few of them, another guy, there were 2 guys on this panel, it was on Queen Bee, had very firm opinions that they believed Laura knew about it. And the people, there were a lot of OG crowd like Remy. I'm trying to think of another one that I saw in there. But they're all sort of saying, but hang on a sec, that's not what happened at the time. And, you know, they didn't think Laura was involved. And I actually wrote a comment in there and said, even Makeup Mobster, who was the one that was swatted, who knew Laura better than anybody at the time, she didn't think Laura was involved. But they're all sitting up there going, no, she was definitely involved, and Heels on the Ground thinks that Laura was involved, so she must have been. And I'm just like, no. So anyway, I'm not going to listen to those channels because they frustrate the fuck out of me. Truth, justice, and the Australian way, fuck it. It just really irked me. There's plenty of other stuff they can talk about, educate themselves on what happened. That's pretty horrible. They don't need to. It just bugs me that they ignore history. You know, like, there's plenty of material for you to get fired up about. But if you're going to speak of a time on YouTube that you weren't a part of, and you've got people in there that were part of it at the time who can say, and they were being really polite. I didn't see anyone being rude about it. Like, they were saying, yeah, that's not quite what happened. They don't care. Who are these people? And if some of them are true crime, again, we've got this crowd of people that don't give a fuck about the facts. Jonah Brown! Very self-centered and very opinionated. Scout said it, not me. But you're right, they are. And they're not open to... And look, it frustrates me as a lawyer because I have to look at every side of the story when I'm representing somebody. And you try to find the good in people, and, you know, you've got to do the best you possibly can for your client, but you've also got to use what you've got in front of you. And that is the facts. And what scares me is that they are firing up this whole new crowd of people that are taking what they're saying as being gospel. And I don't know, it's just irritating because, I mean, we've all been part of this community and we've seen what's happened, and we haven't got short memories. And nobody in there was being an arsehole going, oh, you dumb young people, you don't know what you're talking about. But somebody dared to use the term OG and it set one of them off. Oh, well, I'm not allowed to comment on anything. I hate the term OG. And I think, it's just a quick way of saying, the point of saying OG is it's like this was the prevailing view and opinion of Makeup Mobster and others at the time. It's like rather than typing all that shit out, if you just say OG, it just means back when this shit you're all so opinionated about was happening, that's not what people thought. Do you want to maybe factor that into your forming an opinion? And they don't want to. Well, heels in the air, reckons Laura, and you. Oh, well, Makeup Mobster, who was actually swatted, didn't think Laura was involved. Isn't that an important fact you might want to factor in to your discussion, and also you might rethink your opinion if you know that bit of information? I feel really protective of all of these Fruit Loops we've watched for years. I don't want them misrepresented by these newbies who don't even take the time to do a little bit of homework. You have mountains of dirt and gossip and horrible things to discuss on your channel. These creators have provided mountains of material for you to be scathing about. But just please do a tiny bit of homework. Because there's going to be this whole new generation of idiots that are going to go after all of these creators who, most of them I wouldn't pee on if they were on fire, but I still, for some reason, I feel protective of them. They've been part of our lives. They're characters in our lives. We're all existing in this little community together. And I don't like them being misrepresented. They've already done horrible things. Talk about the shit they've done and get the facts straight. Don't reinvent history. You don't need to. And don't be so precious if someone who, and not just someone, there were many people who were there at the time are kind of saying, well, that's not quite what happened. Listen to what they're saying and then go, okay, well, that's changed how I feel about it. Don't get all butthurt and crying and, oh, I'm not allowed to say anything because I'm not OG. What the fuck? What kind of man? I don't know men that talk like that. I mean, I'm always confused by the men that are involved in the whole drama discussions anyway. I find it really odd. And they were little snowflakes. I'm sorry. I'm saying it. I need to get this off my chest because it's pissed me off. Anyway, let me go back here. Hey there, Doodle Brown. Yeah, well, I mean, if you want true crime content, then, I mean, these people have never been true crime really, or esteemed true crime coverers for sure. But, I mean, people have got their support, their creators they like, and, if they're streaming a trial or whatever, they want to hang out with them. And, I mean, if you're wanting, eloquent, relevant commentary, it's probably not great that you go to a channel that's also been heavily involved in the drama community, but sometimes it's for people, I think it's more like a watch party, They're just kind of hanging out with and also all the people in chat that they know and love are in there too. So I can see why people go there for that. But yeah, if you want to actually hear an accurate account of a true crime story, you're better off going over to like That Chapter or Truly Criminal or something like that, where they literally just tell the story as it happened with all the facts. But I do get that sort of watch party vibe. I mean, I had fun doing the when we were all watching the Johnny Depp stuff, and unlike other channels, you know, we didn't chat at all while stuff was happening in the courtroom. But when things weren't happening, my God, we had fun. But that wouldn't have appealed to a lot of people. Like the chat was absolutely hilarious. The best on YouTube, without a doubt, I reckon. But you know, not everyone wants that either. So. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, everyone. So yeah, that woman north of the border, makeup mobster's worst stalker. Yeah, exactly. When I look at the new generation and find myself thinking the new generation is terrible, then I cannot avoid reflecting on history. I do what all elder generation always done. So I start questioning myself. Is it a real thing or am I just getting old? Well, you know, I mean, we were taught history at school, and you know, and there was definitely things that we were taught. I'm just going to do my mascara. There's definitely things that we were taught that was skewed based on where we were being taught about it. So, for example, when I moved to Vietnam, well, not wasn't even when I moved there. When I first went there on a holiday, the what we were taught in school was the Vietnam War. They referred to as the American War, and they've got their own version and their own propaganda and their way of teaching it to their students. You know, there's a skew in how some history is taught because of where something may have happened and that country's view on what started it and all of that sort of stuff. So I get that there is some fluidity in the way historical events can be recounted. You know, there is bias that comes into play. But that's countries that were actually involved in that war and how they're teaching people about it. But they were actually part of it. But for the most part, history that we get taught, we're given the facts and that's history, right? And you see a lot of young people on quiz shows and stuff, and they get asked a question like, you know, what year did the Beatles release Let It Be? And the response is, oh, well, that was before I was even born. I don't know. And it's like, it's fucking history. What? You know, everything I learned in history at school happened before I was fucking born, but I know about it because I was taught it. It's called history, and it's interesting. It's about how we all got to this point in our lives. And some of it's bloody awesome. I mean, there's been many a history lesson where I'm like, why was I born now? I want to live back then when this shit was going on because that shit's fun. But yeah, it's not uncommon to hear them saying things like, I wasn't alive then. Okay, well, neither was I when the Battle of the Tudors took place, but I'm still interested in it. And I'm interested in the facts of it. I don't know. I don't know what to do with anything. I can't change anything. I just have to coexist with it all. With all their true crime skills, you think they'd have all the receipts. Yeah, what happened to that too? And that's the thing, I guess, is that people are bringing receipts essentially into the chat by, you know, responding and saying, no, that's not quite how it happened. I mean, look, I love Heels in the Air and what she does, but how is Heels in the Air thinking that Laura knew what happened? How does that have more weight attached to it than Makeup Mobster, who was actually swatted, thinking Laura had nothing to do with it? Like, if you're at a dinner party and you're hearing the story for the first time, and everyone's got their theories on it, and then someone's like, yeah, but the person that was actually swatted didn't think she was involved at all, and they knew each other very well, and they ended up becoming friends, and then they had another falling out. But and they'd fallen out at this. They weren't buddies when this happened, and even she didn't think it was her. Then I'm listening to this story being told at the table. I'm going to pay attention to the person who knows about how the SWATee actually felt about it. I'm going to put more importance on that information than on some other person who had absolutely nothing to do with the community or that event at the time, being confident that someone else was involved. It's just like, it's logical. I don't know. I think in America you guys call it telephone. When we were growing up, we called it Chinese whispers, which probably isn't PC anymore. But yeah, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, 50th party in the lineup is not going to convince me over number 1 in the lineup. If makeup, I remember vividly, makeup mobster was like, no, it wouldn't be Laura. And Laura had been had CPS called on her 5 times. That was all a thing at that time as well. And she was furious, as was the entire community, because that is not fucking cool at all. And one of the allegations that somebody reported to CPS was fucking disgusting. And whether you love or hate Laura, it was horrible what she was going through. Just logic dictates somebody like that isn't going to turn around and go, well, while all this shit that I'm upset about and my kids are upset about is happening, I'm just going to fuck up somebody else's world. And that's the thing, like they're very scathing of Laura. And Laura is her own worst enemy in many respects. And she's done some shiteful stuff too, but where's the compassion for her having CPS called on her 5 times? They can't, there's no sort of acknowledging that some shitty things have happened to her too that somebody else was behind. She's just a total villain. It's frustrating. Snowflakes need to do their proper research. Not into the crime-sphere. I like to keep them separate when I watch something. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'll be doing more scam baiting too. I've had a lot going on, and scammers, they're really negative juju when you're dealing with them. I've actually been listening to a channel that does, they don't scam bait, but they are talking about doing it. But they look at victims. They talk about people who've been scammed, basically. But I'm so conflicted by what they do. They give half a story and then tell all of their subscribers if they get 1,000 likes, they'll release the second part, which really pisses me off because it's like, don't make out that you're this channel that's trying to create awareness and bring an end to scamming and then basically blackmail your subscribers to build your channel, essentially, so that they can get to see the rest of the story that you've put out there. And they also offer a lot of tools to their listeners to, if they subscribe to their website, they can access all these tools to work out whether or not they're being scammed. Those tools are freely available online, but they're asking people to pay for their tools. It doesn't sit well with me at all. It was a French war, the Vietnam War, yeah. No, the podcast isn't about the scam baiting. The podcast is the funny crimes involving objects. The website, the Soft Six, is where the scam baiting is. I love listening to it when you're gardening. You always did. Better big damn boop. G'day, Groover. Yeah, we were hilarious during Johnny Depp. God, I've got to catch up with chat. I'm thinking the older generation always being complained on young generation morals and values. Yes. If you go to, but I've uploaded all the episodes of the Soft Six on Smooth Criminal, Doodle Brown. So if you type in the soft six, if you type in the soft anything, you'll get to, because there are lots of other scammers too. I want to do some more, but yeah, they're very I've got to really stay focused on staying positive at the moment because of the stuff that's happening with my house in particular and numerous other things going on in my life. So I can't let a scammer in at the moment because they take a lot of your positive energy out of you. But I will be doing more soon. Sunny's Instagram's been very neglected. Hey, Mandy Hall. Good to see you, beautiful. I've had friends that have had CPS called welfare checks and food deliveries. Yeah, it is disturbing. It is disturbing. And I think, where I'm coming from is like, even say, using Laura again as example, I do think she's her own worst enemy. I heard her on Tiffany Marie. I've been going a bit nostalgic. And yeah, Laura can be her own worst enemy in how she reacts and speaks and so on, because she actually has a valid, not defense, but she's got a story. But it's just that they paint everyone, it's like you're 100% evil. But there's no accommodation for things like her having been swatted 5 times and what that must have been like for her. And people got sent glitter bombs and, yeah, so many. And makeup mobster got sent really weird shit. There's another live had Stalker saying should look out, and then she got swatted. Nothing to do with Laura. I blame Laura for most shit, but that wasn't her for sure for a change. Yeah, exactly. See you, Ruth. Lovely to see you, beautiful. I'll pass on your love to Sunny too. It is energy draining. Your house hasn't burnt down yet. Well, that's a very good positive thought, Jamin. Yeah, I don't know why I'm becoming a bit protective. Like, it's weird, but I kind of feel like I don't blame people for being curious because it's been an absolute bloody roller coaster experience for all of us. And for people joining in now, they're on the roller coaster too. Like, there's going to be more shit that will happen. But for some reason, I just think that being able to acknowledge that someone's done some, in your opinion, fucked up things, but they've also had fucked up things done to them is a very attractive quality. And being open to being educated about the history of a matter is also a really attractive quality, and not shutting people down who were there at the time that are just offering some factual history to help you maybe rethink the very firm stance you're taking on stuff. Because if it ever happens to you, and as long as you're on YouTube, some things are going to happen to you, you'd want people backing you and putting the facts of what happened out there down the track when some other group of people appear and have very firm opinions about you. You'd want to be defended. You'd want people backing you, and you'd want people saying, come on, give the guy or give the girl a break. That's not really what happened. And also, let's not forget this happened too. I know, the tongue, it was disgusting. It was disgusting. And also wasn't there a photo, like the stalker had made a trellis in her backyard that was identical to the one that Makeup Mobster had? Friday, fuck you, Kylie. Oh, I don't know if you'd come in before. I was talking about how I can't stand Friday. That was right at the start of my live. And then I thought you were being funny, like, have a good Friday. You have a good one too, beautiful. Yeah, I don't get it either, because I kind of, again, I feel that there's enough crap that's happened that's worth discussing and being aware of and all of that sort of stuff. But I also think that this new sort of generation of just being so black and white with everything, And the YouTube community we've all frolicked in comes with 1,000 shades of grey, you know, like it's not that straightforward, and it's just a bit frustrating. Like, I just wish that they were a bit more open to stuff. Like, I've never heard such firm opinions by people that don't actually know the full story and they're not prepared to budge on it. It's a really rigid, inflexible way of thinking. And how do you evolve as a human being if you aren't open to changing your mind, you know? Yeah, she did. That Stockholm thing was horrible. It was so weird. I mean, I used to bounce between, when the swatting happened, I bounced between both channels. In fact, embarrassingly, when the swatting's going on, someone on the panel reads out one of my comments. And I actually said I'd been over at Makeup Monsters because I bounced between the two all the time. I liked them both. I was really happy when they became friends. I watch different things, but I only chat in a handful of streams now, probably for the last year. Yeah, it's sort of, this is the thing, you know, too, like mud sticks a lot. Like you're either very quickly forgiven, like Diane's channel, or mud sticks and you're punished for the entire time that you're bouncing around. And I mean, even when the whole Oni thing got outed, and I'd moved away from that crowd long before that happened. But I remember JS for Justice saying some pretty snarky shit to me in chat, and I'm thinking, no, you're not the one that should be getting snarky with me about Oni. But anyway, wouldn't have even met Oni if it wasn't for you, Jay, for starters. And yeah, there's a mountain of information about that scandal. Jay lost her lawsuit too, by the way. Everyone's been talking about Critical K, but Jay got a judgment against her. Probably not that interesting to people because it was about streaming, you know, another network and covering up their watermark with hers and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, she's got a few bills to pay now. It wasn't $10 million or anything, but I need to get my butt into my office. So we'll be asking you Groovers to join me on YouTube from my office in a couple of weeks' time for a Q&A about the work we do here, and be a bit of a renter crowd, put some numbers in my chat so it looks like it was a successful event, and I'll be showing a little PowerPoint about what we do and a little Q&A. And yeah, completely putting all my information out there about where I work and everything else. But I am not afeard of that. I like a bit of transparency. But you watch people be like, oh my God, she's doxing herself. Well, no, there's no malicious intent. That's a prerequisite for doxing. That's another thing, you know, people talk about where they live or something, and everyone's like, oh my God, she doxed herself. Well, I don't think it was malicious intent that they want to talk about where they live. But oh well, that's another thing that happens on YouTube. We rewrite history and we redefine words. Oh, you managed to keep her home. I'm so sorry to hear that. Losing mum sucks. But I'm here for you anytime, Jodel Brown, even if you want to email smoothcriminalchannel@gmail.com. Yeah, I'm so sad to hear that, but I'm so happy you managed to keep her at home. That is amazing. Well done. My mum sadly got sent into a palliative care hospital and died 6 weeks later, and I would have loved for her to have been at home. But back then, I mean, mum died in 2000, and it just wasn't an option really back then. I mean, mum had breast cancer too, but I'm so sorry to hear that. Much love to you, gorgeous. You're still in that weird phase at the moment where it's all a bit of a blur and a bit of a shock, I would imagine. But yeah, I'm here for you anytime, gorgeous. And quite a lot of our community have lost parents. So you'll get lots of love and support here from all of us. But what an absolute blessing that your mum got to be at home with you all. That's really precious. Very special. And a great effort by all of you to make that happen too. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of love from all of us, Doodle. So come back anytime and send me an email if you need to have a little chat. We're all here for you. I miss my mum like crazy, and it's weird. The longer she's been gone, the more my grief is um, intensifying in some ways, because you think about all the things that they're missing. But you gave her the best send off to have her at home. Yeah, I didn't know what to do with myself either after caring for my mum. Even when she had that 6 weeks in the Whittle ward, I mean, we went and we were there with her all day, every day. But yeah, when it all ends, everything just feels very quiet, and yeah, you've got nothing to do. Just be really gentle on yourself and really proud of what you achieved. Being able to keep her at home with you is incredible. That's so amazing. And just keep talking to her, and remember all the little funny things that happen along the way, and you'll be fine. But it's such a weird time for you right now. It's all so fresh and new, but we're all here for you anytime you need us, gorgeous. I'm so glad you've been popping back in again. But on that note, beautiful people, I'm going to work, and I hope you all have lovely days or evenings wherever you may be, and see you all again very soon. And love to all of your mums, whether they're still with us or not. Stay beautiful, everyone, because you are.